All right, Razorback fans, it is the summertime, and this is something I've actually wanted to do for quite some time, and I'm sure it's going to go really, really well. But considering that things kind of slowed down, and Arkansas is coming off of one of their worst sports seasons of at least my lifetime, I feel like it's a great opportunity to talk about hatred and the reasons why I hate so many teams, and specifically SEC teams. So what we're going to do, I don't know if we'll do every SEC team, because how could you hate Vanderbilt? But it's going to be something that should be very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of fans from other fan bases will probably totally be rational about and agree with. And it's not even just the reasons as to why I hate these particular teams. It's just Razorback fans in general, which is why I posted the question on Twitter, why do you hate this team? And we're going to start things off with Ole Miss. Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Rebels. Why I hate the Ole Miss Rebels. Well, let me count the ways. So the thing about Ole Miss is that for at least the time that I've been alive, there's been a lot of similarities or maybe some comparisons that people have made between the two schools. A lot of times, especially in the 90s and even the 2000s, Arkansas was ahead in football, at least, and basketball and baseball. Basically ahead of the Ole Miss in every regard. Well, it started to come around the other direction, which we'll talk about in a second. But one of the reasons why I hate Ole Miss is because of the fact that they had a football stretch with Hugh Freeze there, who was really good at recruiting. I wonder why, because they cheated their hides off, where they come from a 6-6 season, and suddenly they have like the number one recruiting class in the country. They got like 3 of the top 4 recruits out of the country. And they were getting guys from like Illinois and from Texas and places that they didn't exactly have a hotbed. And they did all of that with the subtlety of a baboon, because everybody knew that they were cheating. And, you know, as we see today, cheating is normal and it's perfectly legal now. But at the time, they went all in on that. I almost respect them for it. But the reason I hate them for it is because with all that cheating that they did, they still did not win the SEC West. Not once. In fact, now that we're no longer in divisions, since the SEC West was a thing when Arkansas joined in 1992, and even when Texas A&M joined in, I guess, was that 2014, 13, something like that? Doesn't matter. Ole Miss and Texas A&M were the only 2 teams to never play in the SEC title game. Arkansas played in it 3 times. Mississippi State played in it once, thanks to Arkansas. But Ole Miss never did. So with all that cheating that they did, with all of that, those great players that they brought in, those draft picks and everything, they still could not win the SEC West. And I'm sorry, I can't respect a team and take them seriously, or a program and take them seriously, if you have all that talent, cheating all that time, and you got nothing to show for it. I get it. You had some good bowl wins and you had some 9-win seasons and everything. That's awesome. But the fact is that you still didn't beat Arkansas during that stretch for some reason. And Arkansas wasn't even that good. That's one of the reasons why. We're going to kind of go through these and bounce them around. The other reason I hate Ole Miss is because they won a College World Series before Arkansas. I hate that. That really bothers me, because Ole Miss is a team that under Mike Bianco, or however you say his name, he was basically about to get fired in 2022. The year that they won the College World Series. Ole Miss that season went 14-16 in SEC play. They barely made it into the postseason, and they just got hot at the right time and won a College World Series. And frankly, I don't think that they deserved it. They're not a program that deserved it. With the amount of TikToks that they were doing and the amount of antics that they were doing on the field, off the field, all of that stuff, it really bothers me that they won a College World Series title. And the thing is since that point in time, they have been pretty irrelevant. And so that just kind of sums up Ole Miss baseball, these random runs that they go on. But the most of the time, they're pretty average to below average, not very good. And it just rubs me so wrong. I hate it so much. Somebody that has, strived, and so many other great coaches that have had so many opportunities to win a College World Series title, but didn't. But yet Ole Miss did that year when they weren't even that good. That just boils my nuggets, and it really pisses me off, and I really hate them for that. Another reason why, and speaking of baseball, is because they have a guy who was caught on camera while playing Arkansas, mind you, during the Super Regionals of 2019, not only picking his nose, but taking said booger and eating it.
He's picking the nose. Did he just eat that booger?
Yes, that was a thing. And yes, he did that. You can't have that. I'm sorry. I don't care. Listen, we're all on camera. I'm on camera. Sometimes when you're at games, you don't realize you're on camera and you may do funny things. Maybe you're eating nachos a little too heavily and you get it all over yourself, or maybe the ice cream, or maybe you're trying to hit on the girl next to you that has zero interest in what you have to say. Things happen, things change, but there's never an excuse to ever, even if you're on camera or off camera, to pick your nose and then eat it. Why? Why? I will never understand why this is a thing. I will never understand why people think that this is okay and why it's acceptable. And especially in that moment, I'm like, man, that's a tough look. That's a tough look. And I just can't take it seriously. If I had anybody in my life that I'm around that I knew was picking their nose and eating their boogers, if it was my wife, I'd have to divorce her. If it was my friend, I'd have to cut him off. And if it was one of my players for my favorite team, I'd have to disown him. It's that serious. It's truly that serious. Another reason why I hate Ole Miss is because Houston Nutt was their head coach. We all know how I feel about Houston Nutt. I never liked Houston Nutt. Houston Nutt was somebody that I get. He had his times and his moments, and a lot of you like him, and that's okay. But I was not a fan because I felt like they constantly underachieved under Nutt. They would win games that they weren't supposed to, but lose games that they were supposed to win. And they always fell short of the expectations. Only the years that Arkansas was picked to finish last were the years that they finally stepped up and won big. But then the year that the expectation was put on them, they always fell short. That, to me, really symbolized what Houston Nutt was all about. But it made it a lot worse when Arkansas decided, or whoever, depends on which side you're on of the argument, that Houston Nutt didn't need to be the coach anymore. They needed to move on from Houston Nutt. And after 10 seasons, felt like it was a thing that they could mutually part ways. But we start with the stupidest part of it, the golden handcuffs, which John White at the time still will never forgive him for many of the things that he did. But this was one of the worst things. And it sounds so funny now because of the amount of money. It seems like such a low number. But if Arkansas was to fire Houston Nutt, they were going to owe him around $3.5 million. If he was to leave Arkansas, he would owe the university $3.5 million. So what did they do? What in the greatest of brain cells did they do? They let Houston Nutt resign from Arkansas, but paid him as if he was fired. So he got to resign. He didn't get fired. He got to resign, but John White said, we're giving him the golden handcuffs and still paying him $3.5 million. And on top of that, the next day, he goes to a division rival in Ole Miss. Brilliant working right there. I mean, that's why John White is such a well-known, well-respected person when it comes to athletic decisions. Moronic. Luckily for Arkansas, they hired a premier coach in Bobby Petrino, and it ended up working out at least in the 4 years he was there. But while Houston Nutt was there, he had a lot of moments, and he took Ed Orgeron's players who he had recruited and won 9 games back-to-back years in back-to-back Cotton Bowls. In fact, it was one of the things that he talked about. It's been 50 years since they've done so.
But I just want to remind our fans of this, number one. It was just 50 years. It's been 50 years since you won back-to-back January 1 games. 50. I remember the day we got here, guys. I didn't see any life. I didn't see any. I saw a lot of no hope. And I don't want that to come back on our guys now. And that's what I'm feeling a little bit. And I don't want that. And it's easy to dwell on the negative. It's easy to set up on the 50-yard line. It's easy to sit there and say, bad, embarrassing. And I was the first one to say it after Saturday. Man, I don't want to do that. If you think you're hurt, you got to just look at the tip of my incy-bincy little finger and then go all the way up through my body. I'm sick to my stomach. But look at this, though. You think Florida's happy? You think Georgia's happy? There's going to be a year in this league, the greatest league in America. There's going to be a year where things don't go just right. But it ain't all about gloom and doom. And that's what's difficult about the world that we're in now, because I got 18 and 19-year-olds that actually believe everything that comes outside these walls.
So after those back-to-back Cotton Bowls after 50 years, Ole Miss went back to irrelevancy where they went 4-8 and then 2-10, and then they fired Houston Nutt. It was almost like exactly how it started with Arkansas when he took over Danny Ford's players. He could take other people's talent, but he couldn't make it continue to work. And the fact that he wanted to beat Arkansas every single time, gave it his all. That was the only game he really cared about, it seemed like. Arkansas went 2-2 against him. 2 wins when Arkansas was the premier team and better than them. And then 2 years, of course, when Ole Miss was the better team. But I'm still also never going to forget this particular play against Ole Miss in 2008. I'm sure most of you probably remember it. This was not offensive pass interference. That's what was called. That game was at home. Arkansas was down by 2 points. Lana Crawford made this catch. They're in field goal range. Shea Haddock, the kicker at the time, would have made the kick to win the game. They called offensive pass interference on this call. Another reason to hate Ole Miss. So, hate Houston Nutt. Will always hate Houston Nutt, and the fact that he was the head coach there really was upsetting. Another reason why I hate Ole Miss. They can't make up their minds on what their mascot is going to be. They've been the Rebels, right? They were the Rebels. Great. They're still the Rebels. Great. But there was a time when they decided that they needed to change their mascot because they had Colonel Reb as the official mascot. Colonel Reb was deemed a little bit offensive and did not want to be down there on the sidelines anymore, so they decided to move on from that. And they went through a process of trying to figure out who was going to be the next mascot and who was going to be voted on for the mascot after he was taken off the field. Well, in 2010, Ole Miss students voted to choose a new mascot, and they went to Admiral Akbar from Star Wars. Yeah, that guy. They decided that that's the one that they wanted to have on as their mascot. And it got such a huge drawing and huge showing. I actually would have respected Ole Miss because it's so absurd to get Admiral Akbar. If he ended up being the mascot, again, I'd respect it. But Lucasfilm has just said, you know what? We declined to give them the rights. So we appreciate it that in fact, Lucasfilm even said they're flattered that they are Star Wars fans at the University of Mississippi and considering electing Admiral Akbar as their mascot. The last time we checked with Admiral Akbar, he was leading the Rebel Alliance fleet on a critical mission, so it'll be difficult for him to show up to games. So what did they do? Okay, well, we'll go with the black bear. Yay. The Rebel black bear. Okay, so they have the black bear, and they're still the Rebels, but the black bear is the mascot. I still am trying to figure out why. And they try to figure out what it would be called. They had 11 candidates for different things that were going on, but eventually they fell on the black bear. Okay, fine. You're the Rebel Black Bears, whatever. But it's not the case anymore because then they moved on from the black bear and had Tony the Land Shark, from Marshall Henderson doing the Land Shark, and everybody was about the Land Shark and the Land Shark. And so it got replaced in the fall of 2018. And it was Tony the Land Shark. And he looked ridiculous. He looked absurd. I mean, come on. What is this? Like, what are we doing here? And everyone was like, okay, Land Shark. Hey, that's cooler than a bear anyways, right? Yeah, it's been awesome, right? Okay, cool. Well, here's the thing. Since May of 2021, Tony the Land Shark has not been seen on the sidelines at athletic events, nor posted to the mascot's official Twitter or X account, even though he's not been officially removed as the school mascot. So what in the crap are you, Ole Miss? You're the Rebels. Okay, stick with that. But then you chose the black bear. We don't want that after years. But then you did Tony the Land Shark. Okay, go with Tony the Land Shark. But then you just have Tony the Land Shark disappear. And he's not around. What are you doing? Who are you? Just make up your mind and stick with it. How can anybody respect an SEC athletic program when they don't even know what their mascot is? When they can't make up their minds? When they're jumping around back and forth? I can't wait to see Gary the Giraffe be the next mascot, just running around, the Rebel Giraffe, and then it ends up going away sometime. And then you can do another voting process on it and find out something. But yeah, okay, so great. Yeah, can't figure out who your mascot is. How can we even respect you if that's the case? All right. Another reason why I hate Ole Miss is because of the fact that Katy Perry went there for College Game Day. Now, listen, College Game Day is a great experience. I mean, it's something that's just as integral when it comes to college football as anything. Granted, it's not the same luster as it once was, but still a very big deal. And so when Ole Miss was hosting Alabama in 2014, they had College game day there. They were a good team. Alabama was a good team, and they even beat Alabama and rushed the field. Very big moment for the Ole Miss Rebels. But here's the deal. Ole Miss has nobody famous enough, apparently, without being the last name of Manning, that the celebrity picker, they couldn't figure out. They didn't have any former presidents. They didn't have any actors. They didn't have any celebrities. They didn't have anybody. So what did they do? Well, Katy Perry's manager is from Mississippi and an Ole Miss fan, so let's get Katy Perry. So Katy Perry shows up. Okay, Katy Perry's a big-time celebrity. Great. And it's an iconic moment. They're holding the corn dogs and being weird. Sweet. I love Katy Perry. But the thing is when you're Ole Miss and you're a school in the SEC, especially that you're supposed to have for college game day, some big-time celebrity and whatnot, you need to do better than that. You need to have somebody on task. I mean, say what you want about Arkansas, but off the top of my head, I can think of a lot of different celebrities that would make for great, big-time, well-known college game day pickers. I think Jerry Jones would be a great one. How about John Daly? How about former President Clinton? Say what you want about his politics, but everybody knows who Bill Clinton is. Just keep him away from everybody else that may be an intern. But the point is that they could at least figure it out. The only people that Ole Miss have apparently is Manning. And if you don't have a Manning, then you have to figure out some sort of connection to somebody that may or may not be somebody like Katy Perry. Yeah, great. Celebrity pickers are supposed to be unique to the school. It needs to stick that way. And Ole Miss kind of bucked the trend a little bit because they could not find anybody else. So, well, let's just try to force the issue with Katy Perry because her manager happens to be from Mississippi and an Ole Miss fan. And finally, the reason, or one of the biggest reasons at least, why I hate Ole Miss, the Grove. Now, the Grove has been coined as the holy grail of tailgating sites. And in all of college football, it's the greatest of tailgate atmospheres. It has something you have to experience. Okay, let's set the record straight by saying first, yes, the Grove is a cool spot for tailgating. I'm going to admit it. It's nice. It's not bad. It's not crappy. It's fine. It's good. But to be able to go through the whole motions of saying that we are the best tailgate experience of all time. Why? Well, we have tents. Sweet. What else? Well, we have chandeliers that we hang. And all of our food, we serve hors d'oeuvres, which is like chicken wings, but we put it on fine china and like dishware. Folks, I don't want to go to a tailgate where I'm afraid to get the plates because they may break. That's not a tailgate. That's a house of a crazy person. Like if I went over to somebody's house, like, hey, I'm having dinner over here, and they served me a plate of chicken fingers on fine china, I'd be like, are you okay? Are you all there? But that's apparently what Ole Miss does. Great, grand, wonderful, sweet. So that's what makes you unique. It's like, oh, they're so friendly and welcoming. Oh, come on and tailgate. No, I don't trust people like that. Pretty sure it's what is it? The Children of the Corn? That's kind of what the vibes it gives me. I don't know. Or maybe from Hands on Gretel. It's like, come on in. We'll feed you crumbs. And you come on in. And then it's like you get in there and you don't know what's going to happen. I'm always a little weary of any SEC school that's welcoming to opposing teams' fans. I'm weary of that. You know, maybe it's just because I've been in this SEC thing for a while and I know kind of what gets said about other fans and other fan bases. If you're really nice to me, like overly nice, there's one thing you just say, hey, what's up? But if you're overly nice to me, like when we went over to BYU, great people, but weird, extremely weird. So that's not the experience that I want to have. And without question, the biggest problem with the Grove, okay, is this rule right here. I'm going to read it verbatim for all of you. This is from their website. All adult beverages must be in a closed cooler and not seen. Alcohol should be in a locked cooler if left unattended. UPD is subject to having complete authority to confiscate any container seen or left unattended. We suggest having a locked cooler and a disposable cup for transfer of your drinks. You cannot be the best party, the best tailgate, when you have police officers walking around, and if they see you holding a beer with a beer can with a beer in it, they take it from you. I'm sorry. You can't say that you're the greatest tailgate and the greatest party of all time. I know for a fact and experience from people that I used to work with down in Little Rock at 103.7 The Buzz that they were simply not drinking beer, but had a case of beer and were bringing it to a tailgate. What happens? The police stopped them, took it, and poured out the beers right in front of them, saying this can't happen. How can you say you're the greatest tailgate, the greatest party, the best of times when you're that strict where you have to have your beer in a solo cup? You can't walk around with a beer can. What's the difference? There is none, other than just saying that for rule's sake. If it's a campus rule, okay, still a stupid rule. Say what you want about Arkansas tailgating. I know it's not the best. I know it's not known for that. I know it, and I appreciate it, I embrace it, and I respect it. But that being said, they at least allow you to walk around with a beer can. You cannot say you're the greatest tailgate and the greatest party if you cannot not walk around with a beer can, all right? Plain and simple, clear as crystal. That's it. So spare me with the Grove being the greatest thing of all time when you can't do something as simple as that. What kind of party would you want to go to where it's like, hey, it's going to be a rager, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be wild, it's going to be crazy. Oh, man, can't wait. But just know, dude, dude, you cannot have your beer can. You got to pour it in a cup. Why? Because that's the rule. But why? What will they do? They'll take that's things. They won't even ask you to put it in a cup. They'll just take it and pour it out in front of you just to be a jerk. Man, party of the year. Watch out. It's like forget the Playboy Mansion. The Grove is where it's at, where the crazy things go. So there's just a few things. And I'm sure Ole Miss fans are going to be arguing in the comments about how incredibly wrong I am and how stupid I am and how I don't get it and I probably got stuff wrong. I don't care. That's why I hate you. But I will read some other reasons why I hate you from, at least ones I agree with, from people who were on Twitter that were talking about it. So there were people that were saying that Houston Nutt, Marshall Henderson, Lane Kiffin, baseball shenanigans, and booger eaters. That comes from Mark Freeman. I agree. There's also Duval Jags, pride always. All right, he says, because we are supposed to. It's Oxford. It's some really cringe dress up. They have a baseball natty and then poof, gone again. The question should be like, why do we like Ole Miss? Because I don't think of a single reason why. Fair enough. Dustin even says, as a drumline member, when we were there a few years ago, we had to have the police escort us out of the stadium after 51-52 loss because their fans were throwing glass bottles and other things at us. It was pretty ridiculous. But wait, I thought glass bottles were not allowed. How did they get those in? Man, crazy idea. Wild. Absolutely wild. John says somehow they are more entitled than Tennessee, and despite winning, far less. That's really a great thing. And I'll also agree with this too, and I'll give credit where credit is due. This comes from Matt. I hate Ole Miss because of pure jealousy. They have never they should have never gotten their football and basketball coach situation better than ours, not from where we were and they were. And I can at least respect that, because I'll say this about Ole Miss, as much as I've hated on y'all, you do have a great coach in Lane Kiffin in football side of things. And I think Chris Beard is a phenomenal basketball coach, too. Now, we'll see if any of it plays out. I think Lane Kiffin is going to be great, but at some point in time, keeps wondering if he's ever going to leave. He hasn't yet. I don't know how many opportunities he's had, but he hasn't left yet. And Chris Beard, I don't think he's going to be at Ole Miss for the long term, but maybe he is. Maybe you guys still find a way. So as much as I've hated on you, I at least respect you for getting some controversial coaches, hiring them, and breeding the success of them, because I feel like that's what more programs should do. But still, I really, really hate you, and I can't wait to beat you once again. Fair enough? Fair enough. Well, speaking of something that you hate, because I hate them too, how about pests? We all hate pests. Pests are the worst, and especially around this time of year. And luckily for all of you, we have a great deal because we have partnered with the great Hopper Termite and Pest Control. Here in the state of Arkansas, we know that it's all about being local, but it's also about getting a great response from things that you need that are very important. And termite and pest are extremely important. So I know you may hate Ole Miss fans. I don't think Hopper will be able to take care of them, but you can at least make sure that they take care of your termite and pest problem. And you're talking about critters like rodents, roaches, and mosquitoes. They can destroy your property and create a lot of health problems for your family. But with Hopper Termite and Pest Control, they have a tried and true solution. Their program eradicates many common pests and works for many weeks before it needs to be reapplied, and it lasts even throughout the rainy season. So discover the secret to your pest-free yard and enjoy $50 off your very first treatment when you sign up. All you got to do is use code NATTY, N-A-T-T-Y. Just use promo code NATTY, and you get $50 off your first treatment with Hopper Termite and Pest. You can call them today at 479-750-4070. You can also check out their website at www.callhopper.com. That's callhopper.com. They're great people over there. They're great Razorback fans, and they're going to make sure that the pests and the termites and all of the things that end up bothering you at your home and trying to protect your family, they're going to make sure that they take care of it for you. So call them today. It is Hopper Termite and Pest. Callhopper.com, and also 479-750-4070.